all S2 parents, carers and learners who have joined us at this virtual S2 Options Choice evening. I'm joined tonight by the senior leadership team and representatives from the guidance team. The choices made from S2 to S3 are really important as they form the foundation of further choices learners will make moving through the school and into further or higher education or employment. Although third year is still part of the broad general education, which started at nursery school, it nevertheless is a year in which learners start to narrow down their subjects in preparation for moving into the senior phase in fourth year. But tonight, we meet virtually due to the ongoing pandemic, and even if we can't meet face to face, we assure you of the same support and guidance we would offer if learners were all in school at present. A lot of effort has gone into making this S2 to S3 choice process possible this year and to make it as informative and helpful. And so, with no further ado, I hand you over to the very capable hands of Mr. Walton, who will lead you through this event. Mr. Walton.
Thank you, Mrs. Sharp. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mr. Walton, and it is my responsibility and my delight to be in charge of the curriculum for the school. And also, I'm often the one who will be welcoming you to our parents' evenings, having spent time with the seniors and getting you a coffee and a tea and maybe a fine piece, introducing you to the parent council and having a brief presentation on how we operate options, what is the rationale of our curriculum, why we do things the way we do. So I can only say that it is a real sad point for me that we've not been able to have you and host you at the Academy, because it is the highlight of my year is organising and meeting, because it's a great opportunity for us to have those quiet chats and to actually field your questions in person, and also to have you see where it is that your son or daughter actually does their learning. So on behalf of the school, you know, it is a big loss for me and for us, but we're hoping that tonight the team that we've assembled can give you some of the benefits of that evening, and we can also field some of your questions. Some parents have been able to send us some questions through the week via our new options website that we've set up, and there was a form in there for you to submit questions. So at the end of the evening, I'll be answering those questions live, along with some of my colleagues who have joined us tonight. We've got a selection of our senior leadership team, and we've also got some of our guidance colleagues who are with us tonight, who can give us together a great coverage for what the school does and how we do it. So the first item for tonight is for me to give you a version of the presentation I would have done live in the school, which is all about our curriculum rationale. So I'm going to change some of the imagery on the screen, and that will allow me to show you a fancy bit of flying about navigation, which is on my second screen. Now then, so what we should see here is the S2 choices and our school's purpose. The school's purpose is together creating positive futures. And that sentence covers the whole rationale for our curriculum. The idea being that what we want, our laser focus for all young people at the Academy, is to achieve a positive destination, a future that is both something that makes them happy and also something that is rewarding and gives them their options in life, their choices and chances. We call it creating positive futures because we believe that these futures aren't going to make themselves. It's not inevitable, and that we need to work together to achieve it. So that means every day working with your son or daughter to help them get to where they want to be, but also for you to work with us as well. And that's what these parents' evenings are all about. Showing you what we do so that we can work together when we're explaining the options and we're helping give advice to your son or daughter. So we believe that the number one influencer on the young person and their choices is the parent or carer. After that, it's the class teacher. And then we've got our guidance teachers and careers coaches. So it's really important that we're all on the same page about why we do the things that we do. So understanding the overall purpose of the school, together creating positive futures, I'd like to now have a look at how that changes as we go through the years. So here is an illustration of what the second year curriculum is all about. The purpose of our second year curriculum is to apply what we have learned so far from primary one all the way through to midway through secondary. At the end of our second year, we've been doing our assessments. We've been learning in all of these many different areas and subjects. We've had a balance of literacy, numeracy, and health and well-being. And this pie chart illustrates the number and breadth of all the different courses that we do in school. Now, your young person has been experiencing these courses and they're being assessed, and that's given us the ability to give some advice through our report that went out last term on what would be their strength areas and what will be a good next step. But I'm now going to show you what happens when we go to third year. You'll see that there's been quite a change. We still have a balance of literacy, numeracy, health and well-being, but only half of the week is those solid colours. The other half of the week is up to you. We call this personalization, where you and your child gets to choose subjects and courses that suit not only their interest areas, but also their career aspirations. And so we say that the purpose of third year is to refine, because no longer is it my responsibility to choose and select a balanced curriculum that stimulates and is enjoyable. Now I hand over half of the working week to you guys at home to make choices that suit your interests and your career aspirations. Now, I would say that working with you mums and dads and carers at home, we need to make sure that the choices being made are not what my friend wants to do, or I want to do that because my best friend's doing that. This is the time when we need to have a serious and careful conversation to say it's about what you want to do and about what's going to get you where you want to be in life and where your career is going to lead. As you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these kind of slightly transparent segments. That's my way of suggesting that it's half of the week is an option. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 free choices in third year, and we have one more area of choice, which is the choice of science. And at Fraser Academy, we say that we really want you to choose from biology, chemistry, physics, or computer science for that fifth column here. Why do we do that? Well, it's because the Scottish Government has challenged all of Scotland to raise the profile of STEM industries in school so that the future is safeguarded by our young people as they move forward into the senior phase, having a foundation of science, technology, engineering and maths learning. Okay, so we've mandated that every child chooses at least one science. Does it mean they can't do more? Of course not. They could choose to do the other sciences as well in these option courses. Okay. Some schools restrict these choices so that you have to do a modern language, or you have to do social studies, or you have to do an arts subject. A decision that I made a few years ago in consultation with the whole school was that we wanted, for your choice going into third year, to have at least 4 totally free choices. Why? Well, because I didn't want you sitting in a course throughout third year just because you had to pick one of a bad bunch for you, the least worst. I didn't want you wasting a year when in fact you could be making a choice that suits you and your career choice. Another reason was because I wanted you to make the most of third year and see it as a foundation, a springboard, as it were, jumping into your fourth year. Because as we look ahead to fourth year, you'll notice something that's similar. And that is that there are, again, 1, 2, 3, 4 free choices in fourth year. Why do we do that? Well, I wanted to make sure that when you're in third year, you have every opportunity to pick the choices that you could go on and study in fourth year. And so that you could prepare for your fourth year National 5s or National 4s, or whatever it may be that you're studying in fourth year, you can prepare for them in third year, and it can be a great launch pad into your fourth year, rather than spending a year in a subject that you only chose because it was the least of a bad bunch, as I've said. Another thing to point out here in terms of our curriculum rationale is that, as you can see, at the end of third year, we give you another option. you can change your mind. Maybe your third year choice, it wasn't quite what you hoped. Or maybe you realized studying a bit further, spending a bit more time in the week, a bit more depth of study, that it isn't quite the course that you wanted it to be. And so therefore you've changed your mind. You've got every opportunity to change your mind at the end of third year and maybe take a skill into a different avenue, maybe explore a different one of the arts, or maybe go into a different aspect of science or social studies. That is perfectly acceptable at the end of third year to change your mind, because we need you to be studying every year in the place that you want to be, in the place that suits you and your career aspirations. And so now that you've seen how second year goes into third year, where you get half of your week now as a choice, and you see how third year goes into fourth year, you're seeing the future. I hope that explains why we have the third year the way it is, to get you ready for your fourth year and to give you some personalization and choice. There is one more aspect of third year that we need to kind of spend a bit of time on, because unlike your RMPS, your PE, your PSE, your English, your maths, your core, as it were, that you've been studying in the past, there is one course that you've never looked at before, which is employability. And I'll be speaking about that because we've had a question about that later on in our frequently asked questions. It involves lots and lots of interesting things, some of which you've looked at before in PSE or in Apex or even in primary school. It touches on a lot of our priorities for Scotland education. One of this is developing the young workforce, which is a major priority of Scotland, to make sure that the work that we're doing in school is getting every young child ready for the real world. It's a way of us building towards your work placement at the end of third year. It's a way of us to engage with our employers. And I must introduce another acronym for you. This is the Brock Employer Engagement Team. And we've got quite a wide-ranging group of local employers that meet with us through our Beat Meets. And also, it's a great way for us to involve Skills Development Scotland. These are the people that work for us in terms of careers advice, but they also set lots and lots of challenges to Scottish education with regards to developing apprenticeships both in school and after school, and also setting us a skills framework that we engage our young people with even from first year. So that's the news for third year. Every young person will be engaging with employability for one lesson a week throughout third year, and I'll be speaking a bit more about that later on. One last thing to give, which is a bit of a news flash for third year. You may have seen this in the options information, but we do have the opportunity to study a Nat 5 in third year through our sponsored program with Shell and Nescol called Girls in Energy. Now, this is a course that is meeting one of the requirements, one of the challenges of the National STEM strategy, which is to try and increase the number of girls entering STEM and especially engineering careers. And so this course is going into its sixth year with Fraserburgh Academy, and it's been a great success. What I would reassure is that if any boys would be feeling frustrated right now about that this is not an offer for them, I do understand. I would point to the fact that there is plenty of opportunity through extracurricular with our STEAM club to keep your STEM learning going through third year. Obviously, we've got wonderful opportunities through graphics and through physics, but also when you get to fourth year, there is college opportunities with skills for work engineering, automation and renewables, but also in school itself, we've got National 5 engineering science as well to look forward to in fourth year. So that takes me to the end of this stage of my presentation with regards to the rationale of why we have the courses that we do. And I would just like to bring in at this stage Mrs. Murray, who will be looking at our questions as we go through today to see if we've had any questions so far about any of the content.
Hi, Mr. Walton. We're fine for questions just now, so you're free to continue.
Okay, fantastic. As I say, we have had some submitted questions in our frequently asked questions that will be coming through at the end of the presentation. So next, I'm going to be sharing with you something you may have seen, but may not have thoroughly had the talk through, and that is our options website. This year, to compensate for some of the disappointment we've all shared about not being able to have you hosted in our school, not being able to have the all the provision we would normally do because of COVID. We created some options websites, both for the senior phase and for S2 into S3. I hope that you've had opportunities to have a look at this. Our excellent guidance team spent some dedicated time in our online PSE lessons over the last couple of weeks, helping our S2 learners who could make it to the online lesson navigate this new website. The first part of that is an options booklet, which will open up as a flipbook. So this HTML flipbook is a nice way of recreating a kind of paper booklet, and it takes you through the different subjects. The opening part of it is a little bit like the rationale that you've just seen me talk through, and also a reminder of how third year connects with the senior phase. There's a bit of information again about the Girls in Energy course that there is 15 places on, so it is limited. Young people, the girls that want to do that, they do have to go through an interview process for it and an application, just so we're getting the right person in the right place. The rest of the booklet is information generated by our faculties explaining what goes on in terms of the course content and what are the progression paths leading from it. So I hope that's quite user-friendly. That opens up on phones as well as on laptops and computers. So the next bit of the options process is to take a look at a kind of proxy version of the paper options form. Normally we would have been doing this on paper, and I would have been collecting these in through the guidance team, and they would have checked it twice, and then I would have had a look at it and then started processing it. But on our options form, it reminds you about our core courses on the left of PE, RMPS, PSC, and employability. And also on the right is where we would be putting our options in. Sorry, one last part. On the left-hand side is where we would have put our mandatory science of the biology, chemistry, computer science, or physics. And on the right-hand side, the 4 options. A reminder here at the bottom, I do ask for 2 reserve subjects to be entered, just in case we have timetable problems, or we cannot, or we've had a course that is oversubscribed. I noticed that there was a question that I'll come to in the FAQs, which was to do with what happens if my child doesn't get their priority subject, and I can speak about that a little while later. But what I can say is this, is that the order that you put the subjects are in order of your priority. So I know which ones I have to ring fence to make sure that you're getting your numero uno options. Please, can I remind everybody that the deadline for getting the options done online is the 5th of February, which I believe is a week tomorrow. And that allows us to get the timetabling started. Whilst we're all busy with the hurly-burly of online learning, trying to get all of our work done for this year, at this time of year, it's my job to make sure that we're also thinking ahead to next year and making sure that we're ready. I would like to say that if you do have any particular questions tonight about any of these subjects, we have got all of the deputy heads that are in charge of the management structures for those subject areas, so we can do our best to answer those. If there's anything, dare I say, beyond our ability to answer, heaven forbid, we can, of course, take those questions, get them to the faculties, and then get them directly back to you, as long as you give us either your name or your child's name, and we can get that back to you. Just so that you know, feel free to put personal details into the questions. They will not be shared if there is anything, they won't be made public if there is anything confidential. We have Mrs. Murray fielding the questions, so she can make sure that it doesn't go live should you wish to have your name or your child's name mentioned. So, in alphabetical order, here we are. There's quite a range for third year. The range does increase as we get into 4th year. There's a little bit of advice on the right-hand side of the form and a reminder of our school's purpose. Furthermore, the next bit of the wakelet is the online form. So this is the bit that I need you to pay attention to, especially because this is the main way that we're going to be getting your options. There's a few reminders there about everybody having to do one site at least. A reminder that practical craft skills is a combination of both wood and metal work. So you will not be putting wood or metal work down. It'll be practical craft skills if that's what you want to do. A reminder, please, that when you're putting your options in, you put them in order of priority, just like it's like the top of the pops. So the number one for you is the one that you put with the number one next to it. So whatever's your most priority. And a request to give me 2 reserves. So to help us process, you put in your forename, your surname, your registration class, and your date of birth. I'll also please put in your GLOW email address. All of this information is confidentially kept, so don't worry about that. This is so that we know it's definitely you. A reminder that whilst you're putting in a science choice, you can do more of the sciences in your free choices, of course. You can do all the sciences. Your number 1 option, your number 2 option, your number 3, your number 4. An indicator here if you wish to opt for the Energy Girls course, and a link to find out more about it. We have our reserve courses. Also, this is really helpful. To give me a clue, even if you're not sure yet, but it would be really helpful if you've had the conversation with mum, dad, or whoever's at home, or with your guidance teacher, or with our careers coach, to actually put a clue about what are you thinking right now. This is a great opportunity to actually stop and think, what do I actually think I might want to do in the future? It could be an indication like sciences, or it could be a specific job, okay? Finally, please let us know if you've discussed it with all those key people so that we know that you've had all the relevant conversations. Then there was a link to tonight's event. There is some information about how S3 Core PE works. Everybody sits Core PE in 3rd year. So this little PDF explains within PE, you also have some further choices. You don't have to worry about them just yet. We'll be taking those choices nearer the time through your PE lessons, but there are some wonderful opportunities in PE to do with sports leaders, to do with doing participation PE. So it's 100% practical. There is National 4 PE work, which would involve some theory. And it also gives you a clue about how what 3rd year PE leads on to. So the PE department put that together for you so you understand how core PE works. There's also the equivalent subject explanation for employability, the course, and it explains here about the partners that are involved and what the fact that by completing your employability lesson throughout the whole year, when we say completing, we mean showing commitment, attending well, doing the work in class, building your business. By doing all of that, you will achieve a level 4 award, which you can have on your CV and it will appear on your SQA certificate. Finally, should you want to, you can hit this button at the bottom, which opens up our digital options for the senior phase. Now, this is very detailed, and you may not wish to do this if you're worried for time, but if you're wanting to find out, does this course lead on to a National 5 and a higher? Does this course get me my 5 highs if I take it? Does this course, what progression path does this lead to? This web page has been created for the seniors, and so it might be a good way for you to have a look and see what's coming. It works very similar to the 3rd year one, but I'll just dive quickly into the art and design one. So this is a wealth of information that will show you all the different progression paths that could lead out of taking art, practical craft skills, or graphics in 3rd year. It opens up a huge load of branching courses, including art and design, engineering science, graphic communication, photography, practical metalwork and woodwork, and so on. So there's videos in here and there's loads of information. So that's quite a lot of reading, but if you do have that question, where could this lead, and you're not sure how to answer it for your son or daughter, then by all means take a look in the senior phase website. Okay. So at that point, I'm going to pause and I'm going to hand over to Mrs. Murray again to see if we've got any further questions to do with the options process.
So we've got one question. So we've got, do they have to discuss with their subject teachers first? And if so, how do they go about that?
That's a fantastic question. We would advise that as a basic minimum, we would want you to talk it through with your guidance teacher to start with. I would say that's have to, in terms of who to talk to at school. If you haven't talked to your guidance teacher about it, you're probably doing something wrong. Next, have they talked to you about it at home? Yes. And beyond that, it's not a have to, but you may do. You are welcome to talk to your subject teachers. And by doing that, we would recommend either starting a conversation on Teams or on Google Classroom. Or if you hover over the icon of your teacher's avatar on Teams, you can actually send them a direct email. If you're stuck for anything whatsoever with regards to getting advice, then I would recommend that your first port of call is a message to your guidance teacher. Okay, and they can even say, oh, this is how to contact Mr. Beats for a science question, or Mr. Leddingham for an art design technology question. If parents, if you've got any questions, we've actually got a bit at the end, as you can see from tonight's itinerary. You can see that we're going to have a item 7, how to get advice or other queries. We'll come to that in a little while. How's that, Mrs. Murray? Is that answering some of the questions?
Yeah, that's fine. We're ready to move on.
Okay, brilliant. So my next point in the itinerary is frequently asked questions. So through the week, we've actually had a number of questions that parents launched into the Microsoft form, which was great to see, because we are experimenting at the moment with new ways of communicating. And as I'm sure you are at home, we're all getting absolutely expert at digital communication, whether it's Zooming grandma hundreds of miles away, or whether it is just having a bit of social time with someone at the other end of the town, because to be safe, we might be doing that as a digital. Some of the staff have been engaging in some of our social channel just at the end of the week, being able to have a chat, trying to let your hair down. So we've all been doing a bit of digital stuff. So I've been delighted to see that the parents have put in some questions this week. So I've drafted this into a frequently asked questions document, and we'll be putting that onto our website and onto that options website as well. So don't worry, you can get some of this in a written form as well. So the first question, and I'm going to put it to Mr. Buchan, who is our SQA champion for the school. The question is, will S3s be completing qualifications?
Thank you, Mr. Walton. Some of our S3 courses are based on National 4 level courses or National 4 National Progression Awards. So yes, there is the possibility that they will complete an SQA level course during S3. We tend to hold that we bank that qualification to see how they move on when they move into S4. So the answer to the question is yes, some of the work could be SQA level work.
Thank you very much, Mr. Buchan. And we're now going to go to our next question, which was all about what about core. This was a question for me, I think. It's to do with the qualifications involved in core. S3 core is made up of English, maths, employability, PE, RMPS, and PSE. Each of these courses has some form of accredited award involved. English, maths, and RMPS all aim to have the National 4 completed, but that is always with the caveat of it is gathering the evidence a little bit early, is the way I would describe it. Normally qualifications are all done in the senior phase, but we make the most of our third year time by aiming to get the qualifications for Nat 4 done in these core subjects who commit to their attendance, to their classwork, to their homework and their assessments. There should be no reason why they cannot approach the Nat 4 qualification. PE offers a choice for, as I've mentioned, because you can choose to do Nat 4 PE in your third year, or you could choose to do a sports leader qualification in your third year instead, which leads on to fourth year sports leaders. And then it also leads on in fifth year, you could do a NESCO course whilst you're still at school in sports leadership and management. And we can all see where that career could lead to. So there's a little illustration of how the learning and qualifications in third year could rapidly progress into a healthy career. In PSE, there are some accredited units in third year of the Mental Health Award that then lead on to further completing that in fourth year and fifth year PSE. So I hope that answers that question. Here we've got another one, which is what happens if my child doesn't get the subjects they want and need for their future? So that obviously is a real worry for parents and young people when it comes to this time. So what I'd like to reassure you is that we have a very, very high satisfaction rate for second into third year learners getting their choices. And on average each year, 95% of learners get all of their choices. There's very few that get a slight disappointment. At Fraserburgh, we ask that you enter in order of priority. And what happens is it isn't a first come, first served system. We get all the options data in, and then I start populating the classes. What that means is that should there come to a situation where a class is too popular and is oversubscribed, then those learners who had the subject as their top priority are sure to get it, if that makes sense. So what that means is that the courses that are essential for your career aspiration are safe, and it is the courses that are less essential that are not so safe. So that means that your learners are welcome to pick up subjects new as they go forwards into the senior phase. We often have that where a young person circles back to a course that they weren't able to fit in earlier in their career. Next question is, does my child have to take certain subjects? Well, we've described a little bit of that so far. In S3, I've said that we hand over half of the curriculum to your choice and we keep half of it. So to answer your question, yes, they have to take certain subjects such as English, maths, employability, RMPS, PE and PSE. However, the other half, there's more choice. There's the 4 free choices and there is the choice of science. Now, we have to make a decision on that in school. We have to decide that we're not going to force you to take a certain set of subjects. And that is the reason why we choose not to restrict the free choices, is so that we have personalization and choice, relevance and enjoyment, which we think are real priorities for your curriculum as you go forwards. Here's one I would like to bring in with our guidance team. So I'm going to ask the question is, I'm not sure which courses would match my child's strengths. What do I do? I'm not sure what courses to match my child's strengths. And I think this might come to do with who to get advice from and how would they get some advice. So I'm going to bring in Mrs. Barron, who is the chair of our guidance team this year, and she's in the call. So Mrs. Barron, would you be able to answer that question for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So if your child isn't sure which courses to take, we're more than happy to meet with them. So we can do that either over the phone, by phoning yourself, or we've been meeting with some pupils on Teams. If you want to know where to get some more advice yourself about anything, you can contact us directly via email. You can contact the school either by phoning the school and we can phone you back, or we can speak to you then. The school can also pass on a message to us. Your child can also contact us over their guidance team, so that's really easy to do. They should be on that every day anyway. We're holding live PSE lessons every week for them, so they'll have a chance to talk to us during that. And I think what some of us have been doing is finding out who maybe needs a little bit more advice during that, and then setting up a separate meeting with them and yourself, so we can have a chat through that. And your child can also contact us over our Glow email. So they should know how to do that as well. It's by hovering over our avatar. So really, sometimes it's really quite good just to talk through it with us, and we can start to identify which subjects to take.
Fantastic, thank you for that. One thing I would say is towards the end of the meeting, we have got a bit of further advice coming about how your child, if you wish to request contact from our careers coaches, how you might go about doing that. So we'll perhaps come to Mrs. Washington at the end to advise about how we would connect young people with SDS. The next question is, my child wants to do all the sciences, is this possible? This came through this morning, actually. The answer is absolutely. Absolutely. Our option structure is aimed to be as open as possible to enable you and your child to tailor their S3 curriculum to match their career aspirations and their interests. Now, with the mandatory science and 4 free choice columns, your child could do all the sciences. They could be biologists, chemists, computer scientists, and physicists in their 3rd year if they wish. They could do all the arts, for example. They could be musicians, dancers, dramatists, and artists next year, if that is their specialist area. They could choose to specialize in some form of business combination, perhaps business studies, accounts, administration, modern studies, that could create this wonderful business or civil service type career combination. They could do all of the social studies, such as geography, history, and modern studies. Maybe they've got a particular international goal and they want to do French and German. They could do both in their third year. Perhaps they want to be real techies and they want to do graphics and practical craft skills and physics and computer science. They can do them all in that combination. So what we're trying to say is that the combinations are so varied that we wanted to make it so that you can make it bespoke to your career pathway. And that is a real delight to see young people start to get excited about their career at school, and they can feel like they're taking ownership of their next steps. A next question is, my child has to drop one of their favorite subjects. Is there a way to take more? This came up earlier this term, where a young person was saying, I'm going to take my mandatory science, great. I've got my 4 option choices chosen, but I also want to do this other subject that I love. And for those learners who love loads of different subjects, we understand your pain. We care as well, because we love all the subjects too. It can be tough choosing in S3. And especially sometimes you might feel like you have to abandon a beloved subject area. So it's important to remember that we may lose the number of courses in third year that you had in second year, but what we're gaining is we're gaining time in the subjects that you are choosing. You're gaining extra time so that you can get greater depth and gain a qualification as well. Also, by having 4 free choices in S3, this allows you to replicate your 4th year curriculum, so you're getting a turbo boost into 4th year. In other words, third year options are a great way to test out courses that you intend to take in 4th year and get a foundation of skills and knowledge. However, we always have ways of returning to subject areas in 4th, 5th, or 6th year. It's not goodbye forever. We also have a range of extracurricular clubs and activities that you can keep your skills going throughout third year. So if you're not able to fit a subject in because of the structures, you could still pick up with it extracurricularly and then come back to it maybe in your 5th or 6th year, should it be what you want to do. So we appreciate your pain. There is more ways you can add subjects in 4th year, especially with our college offer in 4th year. So do pick wisely now. Pick what you think you might be wanting to take in 4th year. And then if you can't fit a subject in, extracurricular, or come back to it in a future stage. Here is a question about what is the employability course? Why should my child sit it? So it's a double period a week. It's our flagship course for helping us develop the young workforce. So it's a Scottish Government priority. Since primary school, your child will have been taking opportunities to engage with a skills framework that we work with our primary school cluster with. They'll also have been taking opportunities at P3, at P7, at S1, and also next year as well, quite strongly, to learn to speak about their skills. Next year, throughout all of S3, in this double period, our learners begin bringing that into the front of their minds. So it's a series of activities such as CV writing, finding, applying, and securing jobs, interview techniques, role play, and starting your own business. During the employability program of third year, your child will meet local employers in the flesh. This year it had to be over Microsoft Teams, which is a work skill in itself. However, in a normal year, we actually get the employers in doing interview workshops. We have the local Rotary Club interviewing young people and getting their interview skills up. And they also impart wisdom and that sense of the real world, rather than it all being, oh, my teacher says this, my teacher says that. Sometimes it can be much more convincing if it's Mr. Score or Mr. Gray and Adams or Mr. Tesco or Mr. Recruitment Firm or Mr. Wealth Management Firm coming in and actually getting it from the horse's mouth. So that's what employability is all about. We also use the employability class as a way to support our young people in finding and applying for their S3 work placement. and we have an in-school work placement coordinator who supports the young people with that. There was questions about submitting the choices. Please do not email choices. Please use the data entry form, the Microsoft form, through the website, because that means that we can actually have it already broken down into the various components, and it's going to speed up our return back to you with confirming what your choices will be for next year. My child knows they will need 5 hires in 5th year. How will I know that the course being chosen will lead to hires? So you may have noticed earlier on in the talk tonight that on the S2 options website there is a button to take you into the senior phase. That's one way of finding out. Another way is to ask your teacher. There are very few 3rd year courses that don't lead on to a hire. And I'm thinking of my own faculty areas, such as practical craft skills in 3rd year leads to National 5, metalwork and woodwork, but there is no hire that would then come next. Home economics in our school in 3rd year would lead to practical cookery, National 5 in 4th year, but it would not lead on to a hire. There are progression paths at the college that we offer, such as level 6 hospitality, but nothing in school for those 2 courses. I'm gonna, I think, bring in Mr. Buchan. Mr. Buchan, are there any other 3rd year courses that wouldn't lead to a hire that you can think of?
I was having a look through the booklet, Mr. Walton, and the dance NPA would move on to National 5 dance and higher dance. So no, I don't think there's any others that wouldn't lead on to a higher. No, I'll double check here though.
Yeah. The only element that I would bring in that's to do with that is when you're speaking to your science teacher, there may be a recommendation made that you study a mix of the sciences next year at a level that's appropriate for you, that would then lead you on, if you wish to continue with science, onto a National 4 in Science and Health in 4th year. And we've also got a new course that launched this year at level 5 practical science. That's for somebody that's maybe aiming into not necessarily going into science research as the science doctor researching, but maybe as the technician or as a technical assistant, which there are fantastic jobs in the world of science that are to do with like running the experiments and working in the lab supporting the lead scientists. So that's why we've created that progression path for young people to continue learning in a general science course rather than necessarily a physics or a chemistry. But your science teacher can help you with that process. Now then, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the frequently asked questions that were asked this week. And I'm going to hand over to Mrs. Murray now to see if there's been any further questions asked whilst we've been talking through.
We had a wee query about the booklet and where it was. I've posted the link for that, but it's also on the Academy website.
Yep.
There was a query then about, login details, but the booklet, you don't need to be logged into Glow or any of our systems for that. And the other question is about tutorial groups, and do pupils still get those in S3?
To answer that question, I'd like to perhaps bring in Mrs. White to answer the question about additional support for learners and like those bespoke classes, such as tutorial groups. Mrs. White, are you able to bring into that one? I can see your face, so I'm gonna launch you live.
Thanks, Mr. Walton. Yes, happy to answer this question. Currently, tutorial groups only are run in S1 and S2. However, there are many different ways in which the ESL department would continue to support these learners in S3. Far too many to actually go into great detail tonight, but I would be very happy to discuss that with MD in particular. So to answer the question directly, no, the tutorial groups do not continue in the same sense in S3. However, the support does continue, but in a different way, more targeted in classes, but there are also other elements of support that ESL offer across the school. So very happy to speak to whoever that is that's got that question directly at another time.
What I would remind everybody is, if you wish to have a direct response back today, that targeted back to you, for example, from Mrs. White's offer there to speak directly to anybody that wants a direct back and forth. If you want us to contact you back, please put either your name or your child's name into the questions, and we'll keep it a private question, and then we can get back to you that way. Any other questions, Mrs. Murray?
We have another question about the qualification structure. The question is, when do people sit their Nat 4s, Nat 5s and higher? Mr.
Buchan, are you happy to take that?
Yes, certainly. The traditional routeway would be National 4 and National 5 in S4, but then when we hires in S5, advanced hires in S6, because of the structure of the curriculum Mr. Walton has built, once we get into S5, our learners could do a combination of hires or the National 5 or National 4 qualifications. And once they move into S6, then it's possible they could do a combination of any of these qualifications at that time. So I think the traditional structure of education before, that in 4th year you did standard grades, O grades, National 5, then 5th year was only hires, and 6th year advanced hires, that's gone. So S4, Nat 5, Nat 4, S5, a combination but including hires, and S6, a combination, but advanced hires are likely to come in then. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buchan. Some of the virtues and the principles behind that decision is that a number of years back now, we changed the setup, the structure, so that we had 4th, 5th and 6th years, what I would say, in the same pool, in the same pot. What that means is that 4th years that are ready and able can do a course that's right for their stage. Same with 5th years, they can sit a course at the level that's right for them, rather than being judged by their year group rather than their educational stage. So that is really important to us, and something that I know is very close to the head teacher's heart is ensuring that we have relevant and appropriate progression paths at different levels available to all the 4th, 5th and 6th years. With regards to 3rd year, the way that 3rd year operates and the relationship with qualifications, just to reiterate, it is that through the 3rd year courses, the vast majority of our courses have the units that add up to a National 4. And so the aim is, or the offer is, that if a young person attends well, works hard in their classwork and homework, and passes their assessments in the 3rd year, then they will have proven that they've met the requirements for their Nat 4, and they can go into 4th year with confidence, aiming at Nat 5s. Now, there are some courses that the way that they're structured don't fit with the Nat 4 structure. For example, practical craft skills, because it is neither purely woodwork or purely metalwork, it's a combination, they cannot offer the Nat 4. And so therefore what they do is they do some component units so that there is accreditation, but really it's a preparation for doing either of those two courses at Nat 4 or 5 in the 4th year. And it's proven to be a real success as a skill developer. Because there's lots of common skills between the two, woodwork and metalwork, we don't offer them as separate courses in 3rd year, so that a young person is then encouraged to go and do a further course and add some breadth. That is the only one that's coming to my mind as the one that doesn't offer a Nat 4 in 3rd year. Any further questions, Mrs. Murray?
No, we're fine.
Okay, fantastic. Well, in that case, I'm going to invite my colleague, Mrs. Washington, who is the guidance teacher for Dundalk, if she will be able to explain to us, if a young person either listening just now or a parent or carer, and they wanted to get contact with the careers advisor and get some advice from there, how would they go about from where they are sat at home right now? How would they start that process to be able to reach out to the careers coach? And also, maybe you could explain what engagement has the careers coaches had with S2s?
Hello. So far, the engagement the SES careers coaches had with S2s they're just starting that process now. So, for example, on my S2 Teams, we've got some PowerPoints and video links which have been uploaded so the pupils can learn about what SDS is about and have that interaction. If pupils would like an appointment with the careers advisor, that can still happen just now. All they would need to do is to email their guidance teacher, and then we can forward on their names to the careers coaches. The careers coaches are in our guidance teams, which the pupils should be checking every day, so they can be arranged through there. And what's been happening with the older students is the careers coaches would let the students know on their teams the time and dates of the appointments, and it would just be done over the phone. If the pupils have like any specific questions that can just be answered really quickly, they could email their guidance teachers a question about a career route, for example, then we could ask the careers coaches and get back that way as well. So there's different options for getting in touch, but our careers coaches are really keen to be helping at this stage and getting involved with the S2s.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Washington. Great to have you on board this evening, both you and Mrs. Barron. What we're going to do now is we're just going to make the final offer, which is we appreciate that this has been a very, very strange year in terms of getting advice about options. And I also appreciate that this is a key first step in tailoring your curriculum to your future. And if you have got any last questions that you think about after this event, or you've got further questions, there is always the option, as you've heard this evening from Mrs. Barron and Mrs. Washington, of either a direct email to the guidance teacher. You could, short of that, you could just email the school, letting us know the house or Reggie class, and that will get to the guidance teacher. You can call the school number on 01346 417 400 and then ask for a call back. And then the office colleagues can contact the guidance teacher, who will then arrange for a call back to engage. Otherwise, you could fire a question into the Microsoft form that that we got the frequently asked questions from as well. We'll be checking that once a week just to kind of make sure that people are getting their questions heard and then answered. And without any further ado, I'm going to hand back to Mrs. Sharp, who's going to close us off for this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Walton. And first of all, can I extend our thanks, or the thanks of everyone, to Mr. Walton for all the work he's done in organising this evening. I'm sure you understand that an evening like this doesn't just happen overnight, and there's been a lot of work put into this. And it also, we've had to make the whole options, he's had to make the whole options process virtual this year for our S2 learners. And I think you'll agree with me, he's made a very good job of it. Thanks also to Mrs. Barron and Mrs. Washington from the guidance team, and to the SLT members for their input tonight. But lastly, I want to thank you, parents and carers and pupils, for attending tonight and contributing the questions. That's been very helpful, I'm sure, or I hope it's been helpful to you, but not just to you, but to other parents as well. And as Mr. Walton said, if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to contact your son or daughter's guidance teacher, or just phone the school or email the school in the usual number, which you'll find on the website, and the web address is, the email address is also there as well. I now draw this evening to a close, and please enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.